they accept like the dehydrator you have on your counter at home. That's the small scale. What they really don't exist at is the medium scale, because it goes from that to this. And that's what it's like for juice, for cider presses. That's what it's like for wool processing. That's what it's like for all kinds of things. We developed this piece of equipment to extract the seeds out of squashes, pumpkins, melons, cucumbers. You throw them in, it smashes them up, spins the seed in chunks through this tumbler. The seeds go through the sieve, the chunks stay inside and go back out in the ground or get reclaimed, and my buddy makes it all into soup or pumpkin pies. And we had to research, basically it was either cutting it open by hand or buying a $500,000 machine. There was nothing in the middle, so we had to design and build our own. So that's what we got that grant for, to do. That was the piece of equipment. So, yeah.
It seems that one of the things that you've got to do if you want to make your food system viable is increase the value of the products that you're creating. Does that mean you have to create more expensive food?
It's a tricky thing when your community can't afford the only food that your farmers can afford to produce. I would call that a symptom of a broken food system. And in our area, we've got a couple of great examples, one I'll give you, of creative ways that people are marketing and distributing food at a very affordable price for people. And it's the best quality food around. There's a CSA in our town, this community-supported agriculture farm, where people prepay and they get a weekly shipment of produce. But it's not just produce, it's also 30 other products from the area that the farmer puts in there. And it's year-round, and it's about 350 members. And that makes it a pretty decent-sized CSA. And what they're able to do is buy sunflower oil, 1,000 gallons at a time from the local producer. The only other way you can buy sunflower oil is in a nice little 1-liter fancy bottle in the natural food store from that producer. So the price is much, much, much lower getting distributed, purchased in bulk and distributed through those means. So that's just one example. But the other thing that's been happening in our town around the food access issues is just making sure that, at least in our area, we can't solve it for other places, really, but at least in our area, we don't leave people behind the way that the 20th century food system did. So not only does that food system mess up all these other things, climate change is poisoning us and these other things we talked about before, but it also left a lot of people hungry, a lot of people behind in the process. And so the food pantry is getting pretty constant donations of local food from all of the producers in our area. And this pies thing that my friend did from all of our butternut squash, we had like 5 acres of butternut squash. All we wanted was the seeds, and he made squash puree out of the rest of it. That was a lot. And made it into pies with the community, and with donated other ingredients. And last year they did a couple hundred pies to the food pantry at Thanksgiving time, but this year they're doing about 1,000. So it doesn't probably address all the pieces of your question at all, but I'd like to talk more with you about it later. Other infrastructure or distribution or processing kinds of questions. What's the slaughterhouse situation around here? We talked about it briefly, but
slaughtered.
It's slaughtered, yeah. All right, we'll go there for now, please.
I was just going to ask if you have other, say, cooperatives between farms for distribution to cut down on, so you don't have 50 different farmers going to one farmer's market or a distribution center that then gets sent
Yeah, we've been talking about a distribution center a lot lately, actually. Now that Jasper Hills cheese is making its way down to New York City and Boston pretty regularly, they could pick up other things and bring them down too. They're actually doing tofu already, also from the Vermont Soy Company. Boston and New York are each about a half-day's drive from us. So just to give you an idea, we're talking about how rural we are, but we're also about half-day to a day's drive from about 60 million people. So we're kind of this rural pocket that has Montreal a few hours to the north and the other big cities to the south. A distribution center would be great. The other thing is that, Squash Valley and Black River Produce are two local produce distributors. And really one of the big benefits of having so many producers in our area now is that it's worth it for them to come there and pick stuff up. So not just the processed product, but also vegetables for distribution to everywhere around the state. You're right, everybody driving around in their pickups delivering stuff is a pretty darn big carbon footprint. It's like trying to eat local, and you drive 3 miles over here to get your raw milk, and then you drive 20 miles over here to get your fresh, free-range, fertile, omega-3 eggs, and then that doesn't really make sense either.
Years ago, when Sunlight was owned by the BC Fruit Growers, I sold some processing apples for 10 cents a pound. Then the BC Fruit Growers sold off Sunlight, and now we're getting offered 2 cents a pound. So no sends that there, but the owners of Sunlight now taught the Chinese how to make apple concentrate. So we get apple concentrate to go into apple juice. So we don't need local apples anymore. And they import cheap dumped-on apples into America, to the US, frequently dump stuff onto us with low cost of production. And so really the local, there's lots of hail damage, which some of those apples go into Sunlight, but it's much better to bring it in from China as a concentrate and bring in the dumped-on apples from the States. So this is why we cannot get local apples processed. So they just stay on the ground and rot. And another thing you mentioned about dairy, we had a dairy operation, a processing plant in Armstrong, been there for years. But the new owners decided they didn't want that dairy, so now all the milk goes down to either Burnley or Abbotsford for processing, and then comes back again. Another fun thing you see, a big tanker of milk going to Vancouver Island, and on this return trip, there's island farmers who process milk coming back onto the mainland. And that's the sort of steep things that are going on right now. And we talk about carbon footprint a lot.
I told this story earlier today about a friend of mine who has a buddy who grows carrots in Ontario. And he grows a lot of carrots, and there's people in Ontario that eat carrots, I'm pretty sure, but he sells his carrots to North Carolina. And he was talking to, my buddy followed up on this a little bit, called the folks in North Carolina and said, don't people in North Carolina grow carrots? And he said, oh yeah, we buy carrots from them and we sell them all over. And he said, well, like where? He said, Ontario. And so my friend painted this picture of 2 semis passing on the same highway going in opposite directions, one north and one south, waving to each other, each carrying carrots. What the heck, the best solution, the thing that's going to have the biggest impact on that is oil getting back up to $150 a barrel.